The world is changed.
The world is changed!
I feel it in the water.
I feel it in the water!
I feel it in the earth.
I feel it in the earth!
I smell it in the air. Much that once was is lost, for none now live who remember it.
The Lord of the Rings! When you think fantasy, you think sex because your mind is in the gutter. You f***ing people. But if you thought of another thing, it would be Lord of the Rings. The books that redefined an entire genre, and the motion picture trilogy beloved by people all around the world, including Tolkien's own son, Christopher. In his words, they eviscerated the book by making it an action movie for young people. You see? To ruin something is the sign of incompetence. To eviscerate? Now that takes talent. But if everyone loves it so much, then how do they translate into different languages? Well, as it turns out, really well. Hey, no, come back! There are some things worth discussing. For example, the opening monologue from Galadriel when spoken in French uses the simple past, as opposed to the present perfect, which French speakers usually use to designate the simple past. Oh, come on! This is interesting!
Tout commença lorsque les grands anneaux furent forgés.
Yeah, French has this really weird thing where it has the simple past, like for example, I did, and the present perfect, I have done. Except, for some reason, French speakers just stopped using the simple past and used the present perfect in order to express both, with maybe a helping word to help distinguish between the two uses. The simple past is still sometimes used, but only in writing, and only to give something a more high-class feel. Nobody uses it in speech! And Galadriel's use of it in her opening monologue gives it a unique flavor for French speakers. It immediately gives you insight into her character and just how ancient the elves are as a race.
Les contrées libres de la terre du milieu tombèrent sous l'emprise de l'anneau, mais il en fut certaines qui résistèrent.
It might seem weird to devote a portion of this whole video to French grammar, but trust me, say the words il fut to any Quebecois and they'll start having non-flashbacks to when they had to learn that useless crap in French class. Moving on to the Shire, and we have the introduction to all our main characters, including the wise old wizard, Gandalf.
Sei in ritardo.
What the fuck did you just call me? After an awkward horse ride into cul-de-sac. Wait, what did he say? Butt-sack? Cul-de-sac. Whatever. He goes over to the house of Bilbo Baggins.
Non, merci. Nous n'acceptons plus de visiteurs, qu'ils soient amis ou de simples relations.
Et que faites-vous des très vieux amis?
Okay, so maybe not every scene is translated all that well. In fact, the hobbits in general lead me to a very strange habit among the translations. Translating names. Take, for example, Frodo Baggins, who in French is called Frodon Sake. I mean, Frodon sounds better than Frodo, but Sake? I'll be honest, I never thought of Baggins as literally referring to bags until after I saw these translations. Hell, every single version of the movies and the books have their own version of Frodo's name. That is, except for the Japanese.
Frodo Baggins.
And also the Italian for some reason.
Frodo Baggins.
On the other hand, there's Samwise Gamgee. As well as Merry and Pippin, who all get to keep their original names.
Sam Gamgee.
Eriadoc Brandybuck. The Peregrine Took.
That is, with the exception of the Czech.
Snjamir Brandorat. A Peregrine Brawl.
For some reason, it insists on giving them their own names, but not to other characters like Gandalf for, again, no good reason.
Gandalf there!
I mean, I could see the pattern to some degree. When the names are based directly on English words, you translate them. That makes sense at least, But where does Rivendell come into the equation?
Benvenuto a Gran Burrone.
I tried to look up Dell, and all I got was the computer company. Okay, so apparently Riven and Dell are, in fact, both old-timey English words for split and valley, respectively. But come on, that's just silly! Please, please, man! Are we sure that this guy is the corrupted wizard?
Your love of the halfling's leaf has clearly slowed your mind.
Say no to drugs, kids. Be a wizard instead. Actually, the weird thing about Saruman is that, well, most of the voices are okay.
¿No creíste en realidad que un hobbit lucharía contra la voluntad de Sauron?
Personne ne le peut.
Mordor hatalmával szemben nem lehet győzelmet aratni.
Onunla birleşmeliyiz Gandalf. Sauron'la birleşmeliyiz.
But the Japanese voice?
そのために来たのであろう? 違うか?
Is it me? Or does this sound a lot like the original actor, Christopher Lee?
A new power is rising. 新たな勢力が立ち上がった.
It's as if the Japanese dubbing team brought Lee into the cast to redub his own voice in Japanese. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time he's done that.
Der rote Stier hat sie für mich gefangen, eins nach dem anderen. Und ich habe ihm befohlen, jedes einzelne ins Meer zu... Oh, you see, it's much too slow.
But no, the voice actor here is Iemasu Kayumi, who's actually dubbed Lee before, including for some of his Dracula movies. The guy is really good. I'd recommend you check out more of his scenes in the Japanese.
ホビットごときがサウロンに歯向かえると本気で思ったのか? 誰も逆らえぬ.
So at any rate, Gandalf manages to fly away on a giant eagle.
What the fuck?
And gets to Rivendell in time for his Elvish staff meeting.
Tuesday night's plastic corrosion awareness meeting was, I think, a big success, and we want to thank Mr. Spell for putting that on for us. Thank you, Mr. Spell.
You're welcome.
Actually, Rivendell brings us to one more important translation feature of The Lord of the Rings. The Elvish. Yeah, there's a whole fantasy language that's often used in these movies. And as it turns out, the Elvish is really, really well delivered in every language. Well, except for the French, which cops out and plays the English audio.
Où sont les quatre autres? Ça, je l'ignore.
But as for the other languages, they have their dub actors recite the Elvish.
Im Arwen, Telin Lethai.
In Adwen, Telin Lethai.
Im Arwen, Telin Lethai.
Including Japanese, which I figured would be a hilarious dumpster fire, but I was pleasantly surprised. The Japanese have seemingly mastered Elvish. Which is weird because their German leaves much to be desired. And so, with the final words being spoken, the Fellowship of the Ring is formed, with one singular purpose.
Why not use this ring? Give Gondor the weapon of the enemy. Let us use it against him.
And so they go off to fight Mordor. And from then on, there's not much in terms of translation differences. The films are very action-based, and the dialogue isn't that impossible to translate directly. The scenes flow with their original intent well preserved. All that I could find in the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy is just table scraps. Little oddities that couldn't possibly fill up an entire video. But of course, that's not going to stop me from trying.
What are we waiting for?
Whoa, wait, what? Let's play that again. Wait, what? Yeah, so the most consistently funny things that I saw in these dubs are just the variety of weird deliveries that certain lines have. I've already shown a few, but there are a million tiny little things, mostly in the Japanese. Like, what the hell is going on here?
Hammer.
I also love the way Isildur slashes at Sauron. Although Sauron sounds weird. He kind of sounds like one of Saruman's orcs. And on the other end of the spectrum, Boromir sounds really freaking intense. It's like somebody was watching Boromir's freakout moment at the end of Fellowship and decided to make that his neutral voice. But the Japanese isn't the only language that does weird stuff. Originally, when Isildur keeps the ring, the line is chilling.
Destroy it!
No. But in Spanish, it's hilarious.
Destrúyelo!
No.
Destroy it!
Yeah. Also, in Spanish, it's Gandalf that has the weird sexual moaning sounds. As opposed to French Sam. Although French Gandalf has this weird little moment in Fellowship.
Dans le doute, Meriadoc, il faut toujours suivre son flair.
I guess he thought his reference to Toucan Sam was really freaking funny. I don't know, I always just found this part to be really weird. Stop it! I said stop it! This scene is done pretty well in most dubs, especially in, again, Japanese. But the Czech and Hungarian are kinda funny. But finally, we need to go back to Japanese, because there is nothing, and I mean nothing, more funny in the entire trilogy than this one-line delivery from Frodo. Here it is, the #1 funniest line read of all time.
Yuki Bakamono!
Oh my god. Okay, well, there's not much more I can do to top that, so I suppose the only thing left to do is to mention the occasional translation difference. Like how Grima Wormtongue is often translated as Snake Tongue,
Lengua de serpiente.
despite his name clearly being Worm Tongue. What could possibly have inspired the translators to make such a blatant mistranslation of the original work?
Be silent. Keep your forked tongue behind your teeth.
Oh, yeah. In fact, some dubs go the extra mile of translating this scene.
I have not passed through fire and death to bandy crooked words with a witless worm.
To match the name change.
No
pasé a través de la muerte y el fuego para conversar con una asquerosa serpiente.
The Proudfoots are still called in most of the dubs. In fact, German has the best translation, since they actually have different plurals depending on the word, just like English does. Other translations just seem to find a word that roughly means small foot, and have Proud Feet correct him with a different foot-related word. I'm really surprised at how well this scene translates.
What we need is a few good taters. What's taters? Potatoes.
It seems like most languages have some kind of diminutive form of the word potato, or at least some colloquial sounding synonym.
Des bonnes patates?
C'est quoi des patates? Pommes de terre, idiot. Jagaさえあればな。何? Jagaって。なんなの? Jagaimo sa. Bel tubero.
Cos'è? Un tubero?
Patate, sai?
The only one that does something different is the Latin Spanish.
Unas buenas patatas son lo que necesito.
¿Qué son patatatas?
Patatas!
Goes to show how global and versatile the tuber really is. But of course, the biggest and most epic translation difficulty the films contend with is with the Witch King, who can be killed by no man. But of course, Eowyn is no man. Ow! That hurt! So, the translation is a bit disappointing. A lot of European languages hold the double meaning of man that either means humanity or male, but for those languages that don't, like German and Japanese, they just say male. Yeah, they don't even try. If anything, the only thing I find really strange is the Japanese voice of the Witch King. He sounds more like Zamasu from Dragon Ball than he does the Witch King of Angmar. Which I guess is somewhat appropriate since he's impervious to any blow made by a... And that's it. Nothing more to say. Not quite as extravagant of a video as I was hoping to make on The Lord of the Rings, but hey, it gave me a good excuse to watch all 3 movies, and a good excuse to go see the anime in theaters, which I highly recommend, by the way. It was really friggin' good. So I think I'm just gonna pull up a chair and take out some Old Toby, the finest weed in all the Shire. Because at the end of the day, if there's one lesson The Lord of the Rings can teach us, it's this. Don't be a wizard, kids. Do drugs instead.